Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Dr. George Maurer. He is an award-winning broadcast journalist, more than 35 years of experience, retired Air Force Master Sergeant who has been deployed to Iraq during the global war on terrorism. He's also served overseas in Japan, Korea, Portuguese Azores, and Alaska. And he has also served in Pentagon Press Briefing Room alongside all major news organizations. Welcome to the show, Dr. George.
Well, thank you very much, and it's a great honor to be part of the Masterclass.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will understand better about the American education system, about the issues that you are talking about also in your book, not just now on the episode. So we'll be talking about the evolving landscape of US education. We'll understand from you. But before that, help us understand a bit about your journey. How come from award-winning broadcast journalist to Air Force and then to education sector? Help us a bit with your journey.
Well, I joined the Air Force in 1987. I was a young man who was enjoying the city of New Orleans too much, and I don't know how much your viewers know about the city of New Orleans, but it is a party town. And as a young man, I was imbibing a little too much. I needed to get my life back together, so I joined the United States Air Force. And when I retired from the Air Force 22 years later, I had what's called the post 9/11 GI Bill. And so I went back to school. I got my doctoral degree. And while I was figuring out what my dissertation was going to be about, an issue popped called critical race theory. And so I wrote my dissertation about critical race theory, and then I converted it into a book in plain English where normal people could read it. And you may know academic writing is kind of crazy sometimes. So, and here I am.
Here you are. So let's get straight to this education system. Before we come to the CRT that you call, tell us about your, understanding of the education system for an outside person, outside the US. How should they understand? And obviously, inside the US also, even though they know about the education system, they may not know it the way you want to tell them. What is good or what is bad at the moment about the education system? We understand a few issues, but I want to understand from a common person's perspective, outside and inside the US, how should they look at US system as?
Well, the United States education system used to be one of the best in the world, and we've fallen a long way. And we spend in the top three, I believe, per student. We're still spending a lot of money on education, but unfortunately, you have a lot of schools where children get to fifth and sixth grade, and only 1/3 of them is reading or writing or doing math at an age appropriate level. And so we've got some very good schools in the United States, but unfortunately, we have a lot of schools that are failing. And then we have a lot of schools who have things in them like critical race theory, which parents are not happy about. And when they find out about it, a lot of times they try to take their children out of schools and they send them to different schools. Perhaps they homeschool them because they don't want them indoctrinated with this critical race theory, among a number of other things. So our education system is struggling, which is why we have a lot of people from countries like India coming here and taking engineering jobs and science jobs and computer programming jobs because, we don't have the Americans whose education is good enough to take those jobs, unfortunately. So, well, fortunately, I guess, for some of your folks who come here and become American citizens. But as far as Americans are concerned, we should be doing better, teaching our own children to be better in what they call STEM: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Right, Dr. George. I get your point. Now, to understand this better about this critical race theory, what is this CRT all about? How should I understand? I only want understand one word of it. That's race. Has it
Yeah.
got really something to do?
Yeah, it's a bit of a complicated subject. And in my book that I wrote about critical race theory, it's called Critical Race Theory in Your School: How to Fight Back. And what I tried to do is I tried to present critical race theory in plain English so you don't have to be a science professor to figure it out. And what critical race theory is, there's two different things. There's ethnic studies and there's critical race theory. Ethnic studies is the study of one's culture, which leads to self-awareness, self-confidence, all the things that one needs to be successful in life. And it's a very positive thing, very good thing. But then we have critical race theory, which is the relentless focus on only the worst moments in history, in American history, without giving due credit to all of the good things that we've done over the last 75 to 100 years concerning race relations. So, again, they just talk about the bad stuff, but they don't say, you know what, we've come a long way for race relations in America, because we've come a very long way. But critical race theorists, they don't want to give us credit for it. And the thing is, ethnic studies is something that is invaluable, especially to at-risk students. And research has shown it to be an incredible way to get at-risk students more involved and more interested in school. They're more likely to graduate high school, they're more likely to stay in high school, they're more likely to stay out of trouble. But unfortunately, critical race theory, they've hijacked a lot of ethnic studies courses across the nation.
Right. And what are the people who are trying to hijack this whole agenda are getting out of it? Is there a particular agenda that they want to push? And does it benefit actually them or anyone else?
Yeah, it's all about, for them, at their core, they are Marxists, okay? And what they do is to further, I guess I didn't really explain exactly what critical race theory was in the classroom, but what the critical race theory in the classroom is, they they are Marxists, and they use oppressor versus oppressed ideology to teach their classes. And what they say is, by introducing negative racial division among children, they'll have positive racial outcomes. And so there was one person who sent in a picture, a parent who sent in a picture to Libs of TikTok, which is a social media handle uh, here in America, but of course over there as well. And the picture said that the 5 and 6-year-old children in kindergarten should explore the following sentences to explore freedom. And the sentences that they were supposed to discuss were: whites have more than blacks, whites oppress blacks, whites harass people of color, and when you're in a war, you must fight. Now, I don't know many adults who have the emotional maturity to have that conversation, but just imagine 5 and 6-year-old children, some black, some white, some perhaps Indian, perhaps Hispanic, perhaps Asian, and just having those discussions. Those children are going to get angry at each other. They're going to get upset. They're going to get depressed. And so they're, but anyway, they are Marxists at heart, and that is their political agenda. Marxists have a stated goal of taking out capitalism and liberty and freedom in the world. I mean, they've taken over countries for my entire life. Vietnam, and more recently Venezuela here in the Americas. And whenever they install socialism or Marxism, they think that they're going to give this, everything's going to be fair, because capitalism, when someone is successful, according to a Marxist, under capitalism, it's not because they've done something well, it's because they've stolen something from those who aren't doing well. And those of us, India is a country that has been very successful using capitalism. And I'm sure what you've seen over there is the same thing that we've seen here. Capitalism, everyone does better under capitalism. Yeah, there's still some poor folks, but you know what? Most of the time, they're less poor than they were before. They're better off. There's less hungry people, and the numbers of people living in extreme poverty around the world has gone down tremendously over the last 100 years as capitalism has taken over the world economy and has helped so many people. But Marxists don't see capitalism like that. They see it as oppressive and taking advantage of people. And so that is their ultimate goal. They're trying to take over the world, basically. This started back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Red China, China fell to the Marxists, Russia fell to the Marxists, Germany fell to the Nazis. And I know, some people say, well, fascism and communism are two different things, but you know what? They're two totalitarian governments whose main goal is to oppress and keep their people down by any means possible. And if they need to shoot you to do it, they will.
Right, Dr. George. So, if I understand, the CRT is going to increase the race divide. Am I understanding it correct?
Yes, they say critical race theory supporters say they're going to improve racism by using critical race theory. But what they're doing is they're being racist against kids. And we're going to improve racism by being racist against a group of children. And it doesn't make sense. It's like me saying, you know what, I'm going to fight crime by picking up a rock and throwing it through the window of this store over here and stealing everything in the front window, And so we're gonna make racism better by making white children feel guilty for things that happened 100 years ago, 150 years ago. And we're going to build up, African American children and make them feel better by making white children feel bad. And it just, anyone with common sense can know that's not how you do it. That's how you don't mend fences and bring people together, by making them fight over things.
Right, Dr. George. Now, at the same time, when we are talking of CRT, we'll come to your book. There is this whole, MAGA movement also going on, which talks about. So
Sure.
you said that there people are not talking about the past achievements. So MAGA movement, if I understand, is almost about that. So is it a fight back against this sort of CRT or any other attempt, or is it, another thing in the work in the political system? I want to understand your understanding on this.
Sure. Well, the MAGA movement, that is the movement that supports Donald Trump to become president again in 2024. It's not just critical race theory. They're angry about a lot of things. The American economy is doing lousy. Our dollar is lousy. The inflation is out of control. We're unhappy about our education system. Our government agencies, which are supposed to protect us, are being used against us. The Department of Justice. Justice is supposed to be blind in America, but they just charged and convicted Donald Trump of an accounting error. Essentially, and they called it a felony. Meanwhile, you have, other politicians who have done much worse things, and they never get into any trouble for anything. So what we see is a division of, right and wrong. Okay. These politicians do anything they want. They never get in trouble. These politicians over here, like Donald Trump, do something that should have been a misdemeanor or an accounting error at best, and he gets convicted for 34 felonies. So there is a lot of division on many issues in this country. So, but critical race theory is certainly one of them. But there's a lot of people that are very unhappy with Joe Biden as our president. I don't know if you've seen any footage of him on television, but seems like he's suffering from dementia to me. He seems like he can't even have a basic conversation with someone, and he's supposed to be making the decisions which, rule our country and govern our country. And so they even said that they were going to try him for something, and I forget exactly what it was. He got some money from China or something, and they were going to try him for it. And the court decided that he was unable to undergo that trial because he was not of sound mind. So he can't be tried for doing something which is a crime, but he can be our president again. Again, it doesn't make any sense. If he doesn't have the mental faculties to be held in a trial, how can he be president?
Right, Dr. George. So, one thing I want to understand before I come to your book specifically is that uh, the general understanding in the world is that the best days of communism, Marxism are behind them. Soviet Union is not there, and the world in the unipolar world. Why should people like you or others be that much apprehensive or understand that Marxism is going to take over capitalism, that too in the US? I want to understand that.
Sure. Well, by all measures, Marxism and all that should be going away, but it's really not. There is a large group of people here in America, in our media, in our education system, in our government, who are very dedicated Marxists. Black Lives Matter is a very important organization, or at least a very popular organization in this country. And the three ladies who founded Black Lives Matter are Marxists. You go into classrooms, and the teachers are Marxists, and they're teaching these children to become Marxists. And we have people in Hollywood who are basically Marxists. They never met anything that they think everything in our life should be handed over to the control of the government. And they think, oh, that will make everything fair and that will make it better. And I can't think of a worse idea. For those of us who have been around for a while and have noticed history, and if you don't study history, you're doomed to repeat it. And socialism, this is exactly how it happens. And we have people that have come in from China and places like that, and Korea, and they say when, these are older folks, of course, but they say what was going on in China back in those days, what was going on in Korea back when they were young, it's the exact same thing happening now. These Marxists have taken over these key places in government, in media, in Hollywood. And if you're against what they're trying to do, you're a racist or you're a bad person. And so while the rest of the world may see communism and Marxism as a dead issue, here in America, it certainly is alive and well right now.
Right, Dr. George. So let's come to your book, Critical Race Theory in Your School: How to Fight Back. Who is this book for? What have you dealt in this book?
Sure. Well, I have a coworker who we were talking about critical race theory at one point, and he's like, I don't know what critical race theory is. I'm a little worried about it because of the things that I hear. And you know what? I tried to Google it, But the first 50 results I got back said that critical race theory is wonderful. It's awesome. I shouldn't worry about anything. But I am worried, and I don't know where to find information. That is who my book is written for. Parents who are concerned, who aren't sure what to do. But what I do is I give them, first of all, I give them an explanation of what critical race theory is. And I tell them if they do find critical race theory, how they can steps that they can do, things that they can do to fight back against it.
Right, right. And in terms of parents, what are the ways they can, if they read the book or they just listen to this episode and are not able to read the book, what is it that they can generally do in their day-to-day lives so as to be able to, protect themselves with what you are saying about
Sure,
the
sure.
negatives of the CRT?
Right. Well, the main thing is this. If you think your child is being exposed to critical race theory, what you can do is you can go out to the class descriptions that are on the internet. Your child's taking History 101. So you go to the History 101 course description, and chances are you're not going to see the words critical race theory because they remove the words critical race theory. However, what they do is, again, they remove those words, but they keep the concepts in the class. So if in the course description you see words like oppression, marginalization, social justice, systemic racism, your children or your child is being exposed to critical race theory. That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing to keep in mind. And if you find it, get together with like-minded parents, organize, make a group, and make your feelings known to the school board, but make sure that you do it in a professional manner. Don't let yourself get angry. Don't lose your temper, because if you lose your temper, they're going to make you look like a bad person. So you want to make sure you control yourself. Like I spoke before a school board just a couple of weeks ago, and I knew I had 3 minutes to speak. So I wrote a speech that was 3 minutes long, and I read it right off my phone. I didn't look up at the school board. I just read it off my phone, and it helped me keep my emotions in check, number one. But number two, it also made sure I got to say everything that I wanted to say at the same time. So, and if you're not used to speaking in front of people, practice your speech in front of your family members a couple of times until you feel more comfortable. And you'll probably feel nervous, and that's okay. Just focus on what you're doing and do your best. That's all you can do.
Right, right. Now let's look at the scenario not very far from now, is that if Donald Trump comes back to power, do you think this issue will be tackled amply? Will 4 years for him will be enough to tackle this issue, or is it a long fight? And secondly, if Joe Biden comes back to power, what is the situation? Do you think Marxism will spread in the next 4 years and take over the US?
Well, if Donald Trump becomes president, our next president, he has already said that he's going to restrict funding for schools that use critical race theory. However, these are dedicated Marxists. Don't expect them to go anywhere. Don't expect them to give up the fight for critical race theory. What they'll probably do is something like change the name and keep it in the classroom. So just because Donald Trump says he's going to end critical race theory in schools, don't expect critical race theory supporters to go away. It's sort of like the folks who are Islamic and want Sharia law. They're not going anywhere. And, they say things like, we're willing to put up this fight for 200 years, 300 years, 400 years. Well, these Marxists are sort of the same way. They've been doing this for more than 100 years. They're not going to just stop because Donald Trump became our president. I guarantee you that. Now, if Joe Biden becomes president, absolutely, Marxism is going to spread. Joe Biden will continue to do things in the worst interest of the United States. And if the United States falls to Marxism, that is going to be very bad for the rest of the world. Very bad.
Right, right. But I want to understand one more thing, Dr. George, is that if Joe Biden is so pally with the Marxists, he could just call, President Putin and say, "Listen, buddy, let's end this Ukraine war, and what's there to fight? Let's just have some peaceful time. Let me get elected. Take all the credit." Rather, it looks like Mr. Trump is proposing some plans for Ukraine to have that peace talks with Russia.
Right.
Help us understand this.
Well, you have to understand that Joe Biden supports Ukraine. That's why he sends billions and billions of dollars there. However, Ukraine is, well, the money that's going there, we have no idea how it's really being spent. So only a dummy would send money to Ukraine. It's like, you got a son at college who's going wild, and you don't know where he's doing what he's doing. You don't know where he's spending his money, but he's always calling you and wanting more. Do you just keep sending him money? Well, if you're an idiot, sure, but as far as if he were to be elected again for that war, I think it would just it would just continue things between Ukraine and Russia would continue on. Donald Trump was very good at ending conflict in places that no one could ever do it. He made a peace agreement between Israel and a couple of Arab nations, which was unheard of. No one even well, Bill Clinton tried it and failed a number of times. Donald Trump got it done. So I don't think Donald Trump likes Putin. I don't think he thinks he's his buddy. But I think he knows how to negotiate with Putin. He knows how to give him the things that he wants and how to threaten him with things that he doesn't want. And okay, end the war. And if you do, we'll give you some nice things. If you don't, we're going to do these things, and you're not going to like it very much. And that's how he kept the peace for the 4 years that he was in office. And I would expect him to continue doing that same thing.
Right, right. Thank you very much. There is much to understand about all these things, Dr. George, and I'm sure
Very much.
a lot of people with this episode will get a deeper understanding, especially about the U.S. education system, especially about CRT, which, as you said, Google also does not provide a lot of definitive answers. People have to find it and understand it in their own manner. Be that as it may, there is, as I said, a lot of people would like to talk to you, understand things from your perspective, read your book. So what is the best way for them to do so?
Well, if they want to speak to me, I have a Facebook page, the same title as my book. It's called Critical Race Theory in Your School, How to Fight Back by Dr. George Maurer. So it's a very long Facebook page, but it should be easy to find if you type in the whole thing. And if you want to speak to me, follow the page and just private message me. I will be happy to take a few moments to discuss whatever issue that person wants to talk about. I'll be happy to do it. I do it all day long, actually. And what I've done with that page is I've made it a daily resource for folks who want to keep up on the latest of critical race theory. So whenever I usually find 2 or 3 news articles every day. And so what I do is I post them on this Facebook page, and I put a little commentary in there to, this is what I think about this. And so that's one way that they can keep up with the issue. Now, if you would like to purchase my book, you can always find it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And if you just look up critical race theory, it should pop up. It should pop up in the first 5, 6, 7 results.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.